Hey, deserving listeners, Love is Blind. My name is Dr. Kirk Honda. I'm a therapist and a professor. Keep in mind that everything I say is completely speculative based on an edited reality TV show, so let's watch.
Overwhelming. That's just like huge for me, I've discovered.
Yeah.
Because I've never had that in a relationship. It's like, have you ever had a bad day? Like,
No. Well, I have, but not here yet.
yeah, like me and you. Me and you from the start, like, I love that natural chemistry that we have.
Well, thanks.
Yeah.
So this is on the heels, apparently in the edit, of him having a very significant date with Lauren in which they were essentially telling each other the precursor to engagement, the kind of talk that we'll hear from cast members on the show that, at least for that time and period, they seem to be saying, not only are you my number one, but I think I want to get engaged, or I want to seriously start thinking about that, talking about that. So on the heels of that, he's having another date with Molly. We know that Molly, I think from the edit the previous night, she was pretty sure, and I think from the date that we saw between Molly and Dave, Molly was pretty sure that they were going to choose each other at the end of the week, or the end of the 10 days in the pods. She said, "I have a husband," something like that. It was literally the title of episode 1. So very quickly, Dave, has elevated Lauren in a very different way, because with Molly, he was having fun and relaxation, or fun and attraction, and the ways he was just describing it, lack of complication, right? And it's interesting, he said, I've never had that before in a relationship, so I wonder what he's referring to. But he's trying to be honest, I think, but also it is awkward, their communication. I think partially because she is perhaps not accustomed or comfortable with vulnerability and mushy talk, if you will. She is comfortable with fun. This is kind of awkward for me to watch, or I'm feeling a little tension, because I think Molly is thinking she is definitely his number one, but we know something different, and I think she just doesn't know that a train is coming down the tracks. I'm also curious what's going through Dave's mind, and it would be hard, right? That you would, the previous afternoon, think Molly is definitely number one, and there's some others, and there's also Lauren, but she's a distant, he said, I never had you really low, which seemed to indicate that she wasn't in the top 3. Anyway, and then boom, now Lauren is definitely not only number one, but number one with a bullet, and also number one with like depth, and like, oh my God, like I'm not just choosing someone that I feel like we would have fun at the getaway and, maybe we would get married, but I'm feeling like, whoa, I feel like I might seriously be falling for this person. I didn't even expect to do that. So that's the way it kind of looks to me. And it makes me wonder about Molly, because she had said some things that were notable in the beginning, right? Which I've already commented on. And so I just wonder what's going on with her. Is she afraid to go deep and be vulnerable? Is she taking this as seriously as other people are? Maybe she's taking it seriously in her way or something. We see that on the show sometimes, especially when there's this triangle situation, like with Leo and Brittany and Hannah. Hannah is like Molly, and Brittany is like Lauren, right? Where the vulnerability and the need that the Britneys and the Laurens present, of just like, I'm in love with you. And not only am I hoping that we on the show get together, but in life, I need this to happen. I'm all in, and oh my God, I don't think I've ever felt. And then you have the Hannahs and the Mollys, who are seemingly more, on the surface anyway, more like, yeah, that'd be fun. Let's get engaged. And depending on your point of view, culturally for me, the Hannahs and the Mollys of the world, their approach to me doesn't seem like a solid foundation for a relationship, right? But people get married and have wonderful, happy relationships based on a more shaky foundations than that. The decision to stay together, the decision to get married, people have various different ways of seeing that. And there's a lot of different types of wisdom, a lot of different types of lifestyles that people want to have. I mean, fundamentally, humans, we need to have secure attachments and depth and vulnerability and mutual interdependence. So it's not like you can survive as a human without that common depth, right? I mean, even for aromantic and asexual people, they still need close attachments. It just might not be of the romantic nature, right? We all need that.
Me and you from the start, I love that natural chemistry that we have.
Well, thanks.
Yeah.
Love it.
It also kind of sounds like he is trying to be nice, or he's thinking out loud, or he's even preparing to break up with her right now. I don't know. It's a different vibe, especially in contrast to him and Lauren.
I think it was the first time we talked where you said that you didn't have the same integrity growing up, or that your mom taught you to have.
Oh, yeah.
And that you really worked to get that integrity back. And I love that you realized.
Okay, well, I was actually really happy to hear, and this contradicts a lot of what I was saying about Molly, about depth and whatnot. And she's looking at her notes and probably was thinking about this in the lounge. And she's like, oh, I'm going to ask him about that. It was great. But the way that she's phrasing this, it doesn't necessarily provoke him to go, because I was hoping that she was asking for an elaboration, which I would love to hear. But it kind of sounds like she's just saying, this is just another reason why I like you. So maybe we won't get an elaboration.
There's pretty much nothing short of murdering someone that would bother me, because we all have a past. We all make mistakes. So
For sure. Okay.
yeah.
I'll take
So did
that.
you murder someone?
Okay, yeah. I mean, it's an interesting way of asking, but the vibe I can get behind, she is saying, look, even if it's something pretty bad, I'm not going to reject you because of that, which I think is a great thing to say. It's up to her as to whether or not she would have that line, but I think that's a good way to elicit, because I think she detects that Dave isn't super comfortable talking about what he was fighting with his parents about, his mom particularly, about this integrity bit. So she's trying to get at that, and that's a good way to approach it. So hopefully we'll get an honest answer from him, because I'm curious. I've been hypothesizing that as a teenager he was highly defiant in the scale of what his parents were hoping for, and was lying and doing deceptive things, stealing, maybe even taking money from the parents. I would see a lot of that kind of stuff when there was a good number of years, 10, 15 years at the beginning of my career, 10 years, where a third of my clients were defiant teenagers and working with the whole family. And there were themes of behaviors that I would see.
Well, I can't say.
Okay, great.
Because then I'll go to jail and we can't get married.
Okay. Well, I'll find out later. If they deserved it, maybe I'll be okay with it.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's love right there.
Yeah.
Okay, well, in their fashion, the way that they come together in their fun, light way, she, in her fun, light way, asked about it, which isn't very fun and light, but was delivered in a fun, light way, and then was managed in a fun, light way. He just denied even talking about it, which, I don't know. If I was Molly, I would double down. I would say, well, just to be honest, when I was in the lounge, I was thinking about that. And if I'm going to move forward with this, and, I want to, and I feel good about us, but I'm curious what you meant by that, because that could mean a lot of things. And, hopefully you're comfortable telling me. I could see how some couples would say, we're constantly being recorded, and I don't want to put my potential fiance in a position where they have to say this on camera. So I'll ask them once we're at the getaway and we know that we're not being filmed. That's, it's interesting. I hadn't thought about that. That there would be cast members that would say, I really want to ask this because a lot depends on it, but I don't want to, if we're going to be married, I don't want my partner to be exposed or be forced to expose themselves. So I'm going to have to get engaged just to ask the questions that I want to ask.
I need to figure something else out.
We're going to have to pay a little more attention to that.
Yeah.
I was kind of having a tough time yesterday. And then after our date, I was just like extremely giddy and like, I don't know, just kind of like happy. I'm like finally figured out like that's exactly what I want. We're going to have so much fun together and like there's ups and downs.
I don't know what's going through his head. The way that it looked was that, okay, I don't know if I included this clip, but he says, I was sort of having a tough time yesterday until our date yesterday. So I think what we're hearing from Dave is that before having a good date with Molly yesterday, he was wondering if he would find anybody. Kind of sounds like that. Then he has a great date with Molly. We actually saw a bit of that. And that's what led Molly to later that night tell and whisper to people, including Lauren, that she has a husband now and that they're definitely together. Which I have to say is interesting. I can't tell if Molly and Dave were very connected or if they were just entertaining each other and having fun and it was kind of a shallow experience. I can't know, right? And the dates that they have are a lot longer than the little snippets that we are shown. It sounds like he's telling Molly verbatim that she's the one for him. But we know where he just came from, and the language here and the vibe, it seems so much more shallow than his relationship with Lauren. But he's saying this now. On one hand, I think the common interpretation is that he is a jerk face and he is stringing Molly along. He's fake. He's looking for ego gratification by stringing maybe two women along or something. And, I suppose that's not a typical hypothesis that I will entertain in the top of my lists. I can never know. People do that sometimes. I think with Leo and Hannah and Brittany, a lot of people were saying that. But, there's other possibilities. People can have problems with their personality and yet not necessarily be constantly evil. Meaning, I say that jokingly, meaning that most people have personality problems and that there are some with more severe personality problems. And among those people, they typically do not act, at least volitionally, in an evil way. And that would be the definition of evil, is when they know they're being hurtful and harmful. So anyway, point is that my best guess for Dave right now is that he's in the mixture, right? It's only been 24 hours and it's been a whirlwind. At one point, he, I think, was like, yeah, Molly is the one. My goodness. And then boom, oh my God, Lauren is the one. And now I'm back with Molly and I guess I should be picked, but I still really connect with Molly. And what do I do with that exactly? And I want to hedge my bet here, because what if I switch back? What if I don't like either one of these individuals? What if tomorrow I'm like, oh, definitely Molly? Well, because, I have to trust myself from 24 hours ago and say that I was really connecting with Molly, but I don't really feel it right now. But I did feel it. Well, I feel it. So you just imagine. And he is trying it on for size, or he's trying to get out a part of him that does really want to move forward with Molly. That's the way it kind of looks to me.
But like, I'm just not worried about the downs because like I still feel like we're just both positive.
Yeah.
I don't know how to explain it, I guess, but
Yeah.
do you feel that?
I do feel that, for sure.
It's weird.
I know. I do. Yeah. I've never quite had this.
I've never had
So-
this.
And we want to keep in mind that Molly has told us at least twice that she's never had a boyfriend before. She said something along the lines of, people always come up to me and ask me why I haven't had a boyfriend because, look at you, is the way she was saying. That might literally be what she said. So I don't know what all that means. It's hard to tell. Certainly people can not have a serious relationship by the age of 29 and still have a lot of depth and a lot of maturity. But there's another possibility there, right? And it's notable that the way that they're talking, it just doesn't have the oomph, the way that he and Lauren were talking, or really a lot of the couples that end up together on the show, right? It seems like they're just reading a script or something, than for her to say, I've never felt anything like this before among a contrasting date with him and Lauren. It either is undetectable to Molly that what they have isn't of the depth that you would really need or hope for to move forward, or they do have that depth and they're not showing us, or it just isn't detectable through the camera lens to me.
Do you feel that?
I do feel that, for sure.
It's weird.
I know. I do. Yeah. I've never quite had this.
I've never had
So-
this. Love that for us.
Yeah.
I like that it's mutual.
Yeah, it really
Yeah.
is.
So this raises the question that we will pose and maybe answer quickly, hastily sometimes, which is when you're a cast member on the show and you are in the whirlwind of feelings and you find yourself falling or connecting with more than one person, what do you do? What's the ethical way of moving forward? Because in the real world, the ethical way would not be to entertain that, at the very least, without telling everyone involved. But you're essentially cheating, right? At the very least, emotionally. But on the show, it's fully expected that they're there for 10 days in the pods, mid 10-day period, that a good number of people would have multiple people. And what I've learned from my contact on the show and the cast members is that a lot of those other relationships aren't included. People that we really like on the show will have had other people that were high on their list, especially by midweek, but for time and maybe for the narrative, that relationship just wasn't highlighted at all or shown at all. So it's tempting to look at someone like Dave, particularly if people don't like him, and think that he's a jerk face and that he's narcissistic or something because he is seemingly telling two different women that they are the one. He's not saying it directly, and I guess one could argue the language he's using with Molly is less deep or less soulmate-y conversation. I don't know how to say it, but it's more a commentary of, I really like this and I feel good about it. He's not using the same language that he was using with Lauren. Certainly isn't exhibiting the kind of affect that he had with Lauren. It was like, oh my goodness, but with Molly, he's like and her too, they're just talking nonchalantly, like the way you might talk about what to get for lunch or something. It has that look to it. I'm not saying they don't have emotion. They might be feeling it, but it's not exhibited to me anyway. So it's tempting to look at the Daves of the world and think that he's a jerk face, and he might be. But I reserve judgment and also give them a break because there's no protocol. There's no script to follow regarding what you're supposed to do. If anything, I'm pretty sure the showrunners and the contacts that they have on the show are at most telling the cast members, look, if you're connecting with more than one person, don't arbitrarily start narrowing it down because you got time. And that's the name of the game. You don't feel bad, don't feel guilty about running the experiment out. If you have two people, typically what people do is they will continue dating both until they feel one way or the other. So, continue going down the line. With Leo, he did that and he got blasted. Now, he, in a final date with Hannah, was really overbearing, dominant, one could say abusive in language and pressure and vibe. So that's different, right? So I don't know, we'll see. And I guess the question that I would ask myself, which is a weird way to put it, the question that I'm mulling around is, at what point should he tell Molly or Lauren where they are with each other? A lot of times on the show, it's prompted by the lounge conversations prompting a conversation, like with Leo, Brittany, and Hannah, they started to know each other from the lounge, like, oh, wow, so you're really... And then they confronted him, but he would also bring it up, right? Anyway, and then I'm also thinking of Jimmy and Chelsea and Jessica and how that was going down. And sometimes feelings are going to get hurt and there's just no way around it and no one's to blame for that. Other times people should be more upfront. So yeah, with Leo, he talked too much about it, right? Brittany was like, I don't want to hear about it. Yeah. And then he was like, well, I don't know. I just want to be honest with you. And so where's that line, right? Should you say something because you want to be honest so everyone understands? Or do you want your dates to be quarantined away from the outside influences so that every date can have its own cocooned vibe and boundary and space to not have those external forces interfering with the date? I think it's a hard thing to navigate. I think there are times when we can see something and say, oof, that is not okay. You're lying straight up. If Molly and Lauren were to ask directly and he were to say, you're the only one, then that would obviously be just straight up lying. But I think it's hard, and I think it's easy for us as audiences to blast the Barnetts and the Micahs and the Leos and the Coles, Cole and the Daves of the world. But I think it's harder than that. All right, well, let's adjourn there. So I thought I would end this episode with me watching an out of context video that was just sent to me. So Adrienne on YouTube makes these, and it is always a blast. Sometimes people wonder if these compiled out of context videos would make me angry or hurt my feelings. Never. I've never seen a video because there's been a few different individuals who have made these over the years, and I've never felt insulted at all. And so if you want to find her video, it's ADRIANE. I don't know if you can just search for that user individual. But the title of this video is Dr. Kirk Honda, Out of Context, the Musical. So I haven't watched this, so let's watch it. So this is weird. I'm going to be reacting to me reacting. My good, there's, the Bo Burnham. This is going in that direction. But let's watch this. Out of context. Let's analyze the shit out of that statement. There's nothing. So first off, I'm like, out of context. Yeah, I've started to become slightly aware of clips that might make it into an out of context video. But yeah, let's analyze the shit. That's the interesting frame to land on. The shit out of that statement. There's nothing to play with, or I don't have good enough toys, or choose your path and choose your life. You are in the pods and you have to choose between. Oh, right. I was mocking or commenting on how the interstitial music lyrics will sometimes be very obvious. In fact, there was one of those songs in episode 1 of Love is Blind season 8. It wasn't this phrase, but it was something, I'm between a rock and a hard place. And then there was a song that all the lyrics was just that phrase. I'm between a rock and a hard place, just over and over again. And I thought, well, what do I think of it? It's fine. Who cares, right? And the songwriters are just trying to get a gig. Two women that are named Brittany and Hannah. Choose your path and choose your life. And by very humble, stupid opinion, people who have Rolexes have been blessed with the tendency to waste their money on stupid shit because it's just a goddamn watch. But anyway, each to their own. They just seem, yeah. I guess I had a latent, unspoken annoyance or anger or take on people and their watches that I had never articulated until that season with Leo had provoked me to think about it. It's interesting. And it kind of went, I guess, for my scale of things, a little viral because, like Ethan Klein, there was kind of a back and forth with him because apparently he's really into Rolex watches. And it was all fun and games. It was just joking around, trolling each other. If people like Rolex watches or whatever, then as I've said before, it's fine. But the way that Leo was talking about it was in the midst of a set of behaviors that were extremely arrogant and braggadocious. Is that the term? He was bragging and talking as if it's just a foregone conclusion that the fact that he has a Rolex watch makes him special. I mean, he was literally talking that way. And I don't care what you're talking about. You could be talking about anything. You could be talking about something that I value, like better relationships or lowering pollution. And if you're saying it as if it makes you better than other people, then, I'm going to react because that's dickish to go home and go to bed. Just go to sleep. I want mine. I'm suddenly wondering about farting in the pods.
Like, all that matters is you.
Wow, that was just a softball right over the plate for Adrienne to include. Yeah, right? I mean, you're in a hot box that probably has some ventilation.
And all that matters, right?
You and me. Is that part of the joke? Is that... Wait, what was I agreeing with there? About farting in the pods?
Like, all that matters is you and I.
I was criticizing grammar, which I'm not a fan of. I don't know why that one tweaks me so much. I don't know. It really does. I try not to say anything about it, and it's completely stupid because communication is communication, and everyone understands what that's communicating. I think it's just as a professor, you just get these because the first 10 times that I had to correct someone in a paper, it was, neither here nor there. But after the 1,000th time and the 1,001 time, you're just like, and eventually I started to teach grammar in my graduate level psychology courses. I would say, by the way, here's what a subject and an object is. And I'm not an English. I don't know that much. You could probably tell my grammar talking isn't stellar, but that's a simple one. And you know what I think it is? I think that I have no idea if this is even true, but something that really tweets me in line with the Rolex watch stuff is when people are trying to act high class or elitist or, I don't know, like aristocratic maybe, that'll really tweak me. And I'll tell you, this is going to be weird at the end of this episode. I'm just going to be talking about these other random things. That when I grew up, everyone referred to, aunts and uncles, everyone referred to them as aunts. I didn't know a single person referring to anyone as an aunt. Now, could just be my community, my town, the outskirts of Seattle and in Sammamish, Washington. Everyone in my family called aunts aunties. And I heard that, but not everyone did that. Friends and other people didn't do it. But everyone in my family, both sides of the family, was always auntie. And then at some point in the 90s, people started saying aunt. And fine. I just want to say a caveat. People can say whatever they want to say. It doesn't really matter. But the way that it seemed to me at the time in the 90s is that people were trying to be more high class because it was perceived that aristocratic Northeasterners would say aunt, not aunt. Because aunt sounds like American and low class, and aunt sounds like British, which is high class, which is, it's just such a silly heuristic. And another word that changed in Seattle was pop and soda. Growing up, it was always pop. I call it soda. In the 90s, I started calling it soda because it sounded cooler and more East Coast or something. But also with this, that you and I just sounds elite, and you and me, it sounds uneducated or low class, which is weird. I don't even know if this is just my weird head. I've seen the evolution of language regarding the label of an employee. So back in the day, you would have, say, a salesperson that, like me, in the early 90s, I worked at Foot Locker shoes, and I was a salesperson. But eventually I started hearing businesses calling salespeople like associates. And when previously, the label of associate was for like a partner, like a vice president sort of position, right? And I thought at the time, the reason why they were starting to call salespeople associates was because salespeople were considered lower, and in order to entice people to hire them or to make them feel better about their job, then they just changed the label. And I hate that kind of shit because we need to push back on the premises that society would say that a salesperson is lesser than a vice president. It's all capitalism and elitism and classism, and that people with wealth or people with more prestigious jobs are better, people are more important. And that kind of language, I just find it really irks me and seems false, it seems deceptive, and it seems to be chasing a dream that we shouldn't be chasing to begin with. People should be okay with just saying "ant," and "pop," which I haven't said in 30 years, or "you and me," and particularly because "you and me" is grammatically correct, which makes sense. You would never say like all that matters is I. It's now. I think grammatically there are situations where you can use "you and I" in the object of a sentence when there's an implied verb, like all that matters is you and I do or something. And you just leave off the verb and it's sort of implied that it's out there, and therefore it's basically also the subject. Anyway, I don't even know if that's true, but that seems like something. So I don't know. I'm curious what you think. Comment below, email me, because this is all in a category of things that I have never really talked about, but have thought. I have talked about the ant thing before. My wife will, I don't know, every 6 to 12 months will hear me like have like a convulsion around that kind of thought. Be like, and I'm not angry. I'm just sort of, what is it? Irritated, I guess. And I, those conversations you have with your spouse that you would never bother other people with, but then occasionally bother literally the entire internet with. Leo's goddamn fucking watch. I have to pull the ripcord or pull the trigger or pull something. Pull my finger. I'm unsure as to whether or not love is blind. Yeah, so this is why Adrian called it the musical, because I apparently was really focused on the interstitial music. And now this guy who looks like he's from DeBarge is unsure. And I'm only joking about DeBarge. DeBarge. I forgot. He does. And I think that's what he's going for. I think he's going for a retro 1987 DeBarge thing, right? I don't give a shit about your goddamn watch. Ooh, I don't know if I want that out there, especially if it's out of context, right? They tell the time. That's all that they do. I wonder also about people leaving the pods having fumigated. Why am I judging? I don't know anything. Nick D, or Nick Dorka, is his full name, and he leans into that by joking, which is a good move, I think. Nick D, right? Dorcas? What was his name? What's wrong with me? What's wrong? It's embarrassing. Guy Nick Dorcas. Dorcas? what was this? I can't remember. Nick Dorcas. Dorky? Dork something. Nick Jiminy Crickets. How many times? And what a excellent job that Adrian did. Because if you edit, which I do, you know how tedious it is to extract and first find and then extract these little clips and put them aside and then organize them. It takes this 6-minute video could have taken like 10, 20 hours, seriously, let alone just watching all my reaction videos. So I'm marveling at that, but also I'm marveling at like how many times was I confused? It's well, now I forget. Was it Dorka? Wait, Dorcas. What's his name again? Dork something. I would like to know more about Nick, so I kind of hope that Nick and Hannah become engaged for that reason. That's terrible, though. Yeah, I think that was the moment when Hannah said, "I've taught you everything you know." I still think about that sometimes. Back to me.
Nick's very good at telling people what they want to hear, and I feel very manipulated, and I feel very weak.
Stuff it. Stuff that feeling. Keep it down low. And then take it to your therapist and take it out and look at it under one of those gem lens things that jewelers will wear, really kind of twirl it around and really examine it. Just me and my curiosity. What in the... Yeah, right. City driving the tragedies of people's lives. Did I just describe reality television? I don't want to watch any more of this. I'm worried that this will be taken out of context or something. Sex. Well, you ruined it, buddy. Maybe you should listen to your groin. This didn't go how we planned it. I didn't know that he was a sperm donor. I'm doing the music again. Jiminy Crickets. Yeah. What's wrong with me? Why do I say those things? What's of food and whatnot can lead to gas? Goddamn Rolex. Who gives a fuck about your stupid ass watch? Wow, the themes. I don't know if I'm always talking about these things, but apparently in the last season, Adrienne had discovered a theme of farts and watches and singing the interstitial songs. I don't know, a more cooler bunch of dudes.
I just want to focus on you and I. Like,
you and me. You are... What? Okay, I need to stop doing that. That's really obnoxious. You're screwing up. You're wrong. You're wrong. And I told him one day to take this job and shove it up his ass, and I walked out. I don't think I said it like that. If you want a raw dog, that's fine. I'm talking about my job at what I just mentioned it, Foot Locker. I'm pretty sure I'm talking about that. I told that manager to take this job and shove it. I didn't word it like that. Over. I want to watch this show for the rest of my life. Hilarious. Adrienne has made some really great ones. There have been others who have made also really funny ones. I don't know how to search. I will sometimes post them on my YouTube channel as a post, which I think is on the community tab on my YouTube channel. I'm not sure, so maybe you could search for it there. Anyway, thanks, Adrienne, or Adrienne. I don't know how to pronounce your name. I've emailed with you, so I forget. But anyway, if you like these out of context videos, go to her channel and subscribe or thumbs up or comment below and tell her how hilarious she is. And everyone out there, please take care of yourself because you deserve it. You really, really do.